Both India and Pakistan have witnessed conflict before, but this particular outbreak seems to be escalating. Is India's economy going to remain resilient, or is this going to be a drag on growth?
It's an unpredictable situation, as you can see, but the conflict has intensified to a level that hasn't been seen, arguably since the 1971 war. And this is a big concern because obviously it is going to have an impact on sentiment, on foreign sentiment, and and that is at a time when things are starting to look up for India, where we've signed a trade deal with the UK, negotiations with the US were progressing. So things are starting to look up as far as India's economic prospects are concerned. And now we really have the cloud of an escalation in tensions, which we've already started to see in the last couple of days.
Shumita, so arguably it's yet another brick in the wall of worry, although the underlying picture, as you alluded to, is one of resilience, is one of trade deals waiting in the wings, especially one potentially with the United States. On balance, 6.5% headline growth, does that remain more or less intact?
I think for now, yes. We really have to see how this situation plays out with Pakistan. But I think that on balance, the economy is looking better. We are starting to see signs of a much-awaited private capex revival. Foreign investors had started looking at India again after an extended sell-off. FIIs are coming in. There was optimism on the trade talks and India opening up really its protectionist ways. So I think the long-term growth story, as you say, is intact. I think that we can continue to grow at 6.5%. To need a jump up, we really need to open up our markets more, attract more foreign investment. And that is the critical question now. Will this increased tension with Pakistan, especially if it prolongs, make investors more nervous about coming into India?
The UK-India trade deal that was struck on Tuesday, I know that there's still some work to do, but Britain said the deal was the biggest and most economically significant bilateral trade agreement since Brexit. Would you agree? What does it mean for India? And does this arguably open up the floodgates, if you will, to other trade deals?
It's a great sign to start with. And the UK is one of India's largest export destinations. But at the same time, India hasn't really been a big exporter of merchandise goods. It's really been focusing on services exports. And the UK market will help in terms of merchandise exports growing up, especially in areas. Again, the details are sketchy, but they're saying clothing and footwear from India. These are labor-intensive industries, and to get more of a market for these is a big advantage for creating jobs and more manufacturing capabilities in India. And also these countries like the US, UK are big markets for India's growing services exports. So having a good trade relationship with these countries is extremely important. And I think that this also signals a more open stance on India's part, that we are willing to come to the trade negotiation table and make concessions in order to make bilateral trade deals that work for both sides.
Ultimately, India's ambition is to be a global semiconductor chip powerhouse, amongst other things. Where is India on that journey and transition?
But I think we're doing quite well in terms of raising our profile and in terms of higher value manufacturing. And there's nothing like the headlines that an Apple makes when it says that it's going to increase its manufacturing base in India. At the same time, this is a sector that is quite niche, and even though we have the capabilities and they're growing, and we have the workforce to cater to that segment, we really need to focus on the labor-intensive manufacturing side as well. That needs to work in a parallel track, because jobs have been a problem in India, creation of jobs and moving the vast workforce from farms to factories still remains a big conundrum in India. So I think that these two they need to work in parallel tracks, that we're creating enough jobs for the unskilled, the vast unskilled labor
Exactly.
force as well.